Alright. 5 full episodes of content, and now I get to start promoting. Let's see, buying ads, posting to rpg.net, who knows where else. Let me see here, who to buy ads from. I have 10,000 dice for immediate... When did they start doing those scams with dice? Let's see. Roll 2d10 for Canadian Viagra? I'm never going to get through this list. Welcome to another installment of Those Crazy Games. I'm Mark Kinney. 1998. The halcyon days of the internet, before notorious spam kings were sent to prison. There were, of course, games based on internet/computer stuff at the time. Most famously, Steve Jackson Games did Hacker, using inspiration from his prior Illuminati game and a Secret Service raid in the mechanics and highly customizable player pieces. This is not about that game. Atlas Games Spammers is what I'm talking about today. This was a curious game, as Atlas Games was certainly no stranger to card games, having already published classics like Once Upon a Time and Lunch Money, as well as the On the Edge collectible card game based on their Over the Edge RPG. Email spam was still a mere annoyance, and so still a subject for a humorous game. And if anything, Spammers is humorous. In the game, you have mailings, mailing lists, and scams, and a cursory look at the different types show hilarious references to familiar mass emails of the time. I'm rather sorry that given how closely Steve Jackson Games and Atlas Games had worked in the recent past, including a crossover between the aforementioned On the Edge CCG and Steve Jackson Games' Illuminati New World Order, that we couldn't have seen something like the Semi-Conscious Liberation Army card in there somewhere. I mean, hey, given some of the other things in the set, it would fit. But I'm getting away from the game. There are 4 themes in the game, whether types of scams or specialties for the mailing lists. Those are adult, internet services, get-rich-quick schemes, and free stuff. These are all marked with the appropriate counter. The specialty for the mailing lists and reading for your scams. Between your private mailing lists and the ones placed in the center of the table at the beginning of the game, referred to as the unwashed masses, you use your mailings either to increase one of your scams, based on what mailing list you use it on, and doing that gives it a gruntle, decreasing its effectiveness in the future, possibly moving your private list to the unwashed masses and forcing you to put out yet more counters. But even that doesn't guarantee anything because you still have a dice roll. You need less than or equal to the size of the mailing list, modified by whatever specialties the two share. You can only do a mailing like this once per turn, but that's not all. The mailings also have instant effects that can be used through the course of the game instead of mailing. And no, sorry, I don't have a free set of steak knives for you. There are also hardware cards that affect all this stuff, but really, that's the easy part. As for the rest of it, constantly changing ratings, specialties, and disgruntledness means shuffling all kinds of counters around, and sure, other games do this too. But games like Illuminati, for example, use them for one thing. In Illuminati's case, the money held by each group in the power structure. And certainly, Magic the Gathering brings a parade of counters with it, so perhaps I can't say too much about that. But then, for a game that presents itself as so light and humorous, surrounded by games like Flux and Atlas's own Lunch Money, if we were to compare Magic to Starfleet Battles, Spammers would end up looking like Squad Leader. And the final nail in that coffin, how many actions you take per turn. The rules clearly and cleanly state, quote, On a player's turn, he or she may take 0, 1, 2, or 3 actions. I don't know why they couldn't have phrased this as up to 3 actions, or something like that, because the way it's phrased, I wasn't sure if there were in-game considerations for how many actions you could take. From the example of play, though, it's player need, or at least win. I've had at least one group decline to play the game at this point, just from that. But yeah, the actions. You can draw a card, whether a list card, which is a new mailing list, or an action card, which is anything else. You can play an action card. You can merge 2 mailing lists together, leading to yet more hot, counter-adjusting action. And then, to win, a player must have either scams that add up to a rating of at least 20, or a single scam with a rating of at least 12, at the beginning of their turn. That's right, everyone gets a shot at the leader before the end, and the action deck is full of cards just for this kind of thing. And then, finally, you can play something else. Spammers. Okay, Spammers is a nice time capsule of its era. As I said before, the cards on their own are a laugh for those who delved into the email before effective spam filters were a thing. And it's rather telling of this particular era that this game came from, the late 90s, that the example of play features a game involving Mr. Gates, Mr. Jobs, and Satan. I'm assuming you can still get this game if what I just described appeals to you. I mean, hell, Munchkin is pretty much a screw the leader game, and that's been Steve Jackson's meal ticket for the last 15 years. Although, admittedly, you don't have to juggle nearly as many counters in that game. And Spammers is still listed on Atlas's website, although a glance at Warehouse 23, where they do a lot of their online sales, show 2 in stock as of this recording. And, of course, counter sheets for Spammers ended up being used in cheap-ass games Secret Tijuana Deathmatch, so hey, who knows. And speaking of Spammers, I now get to promote this show. Well, okay, promote it more than I already was. If you've liked what you've seen, or at least think there's some potential here, please spread the word. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode and a vlog in between, and I don't really have a theme this time. And I changed my mind on precisely what I wanted to cover for next episode, and I don't have a new subject yet, so if you have any suggestions or other feedback, there's the comment section right down there. This has been Those Crazy Games, and remember, when you're not rolling 2d10 for Canadian Viagra, you should keep rolling crits.